everyone, and welcome to the Bald Ambition Podcast. I am your host, Mookie Spitz, and I am the bald one. And the one with the ambition today is Mr. Gregg Fisher. He is founder and CEO of The STEM. We live in a time of epic disruption, politics, culture, and business. The role of consultancies have historically been significant in terms of assisting companies fill in some of the spaces that they can't do on their own. Gregg has been doing consultancy for years. The STEM has its own unique value proposition. So I thought I'd bring Gregg on to talk about his organization and how he's making changes in this utterly disruptive environment. Thanks for joining, Gregg.
Hello, Mookie. How are you today?
I am excellent. Tell us a little bit about the STEM, especially now. AI, AI, AI. That's all I hear about. Companies don't know what to do with this innovative, revolutionary technology. At the same time, staff is confused, leadership is in disarray. What does the STEM bring to the table in terms of helping organizations succeed and flourish in this chaotic environment?
Well, Mike, let me start by telling you a little bit about who we are. We are a consultancy. We're specializing in a very dynamic corner of the economy, which is the biopharmaceutical industry. We work with large, medium sized, and even small biopharmaceutical companies. And within that, we specialize in the digital transformations that are happening within these organizations across the enterprise, but in particular around how these companies engage with their customers, whether that's a doctor, a patient, an insurance company, or other stakeholders that they deal with. And we help them navigate the changes going on in customer engagement. And our model is set up as a network or a consortium of global talent that we assemble to work on projects for these companies.
How is that different from the Madison Avenue holding company model? You've got large agencies, consolidated strategic organizational plans. You've got epic racks of talent, at least in terms of how they espouse their own capabilities. How are you different from some of the other offerings that these life science and healthcare companies have to really meet those same objectives?
Yeah, we're different on so many levels. It starts with sort of the DNA of the company, and it extends to the services we provide and the way in which we go about building teams. So I'll explain how we work, and then I'll sort of draw a contrast to how these other organizations work. A network model means that we've built up a network of over 350 independent consultants all around the world who are experts in what they do across 20 or 30 different disciplines. These are people who we like to say have graduated from the corporate environment, from the big agency environment. They've hung up their own shingle. They're solo entrepreneurs or boutique consulting outfits. And we get to know them really, really well. We understand exactly what they're good at. And then we cast them almost like a movie production set to work on projects that are perfectly aligned to their skills, personalities, and client challenges. And what this does for our clients is it gives them a dream team that they can work with that will be very much aligned to the work and the project pain point that the client is facing. So this is a very unique model because it basically means that you're matching the right talent with the need that the client has, rather than selecting people who may be, let's say, on the bench or available within a pool of a corporation. And that's very much how larger entities work. There's a tremendous amount of pressure to use talent within the company. If you're on the bench, there's pressure to use that talent as opposed to ensuring the exact right fit with the project need.
How do you ensure that your clients receive the critical mass of expertise and infrastructure, the case studies, the proven value proposition that these larger companies bring to bear simply from their critical mass as big agency organizations?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I'll start by saying that very often what very large organizations can do is they can assemble case studies from all corners of the company and dazzle the client into believing that they can handle all sorts of problems. But at the end of the day, and our clients always say this, it doesn't matter how big your agency is, it's only about the team servicing you day to day. So just because they have the case studies doesn't necessarily mean that they have the talent who can deliver for you on your project in your department. And so that's what we're organized to do, is to make sure that we're bringing together talent that has just the right skills, just the right experience from an infrastructure perspective. By selecting the right talent, that means we're bringing in people who have the right expertise, the right background, and then we support them with our own infrastructure. And that means that we're able to share learnings, ways of working, and blend perspectives, share their ways of doing things with what we've learned on previous projects, and build the right team structure to support them. We typically cast projects with a lead. We might surround that lead with a project manager or an analyst, and we even build them a board of advisors so they can get the help that they need where they need it. That's a very, very different model than one where you're basically drawing people from a talent pool who are in the company, not beyond the company, and who happen to be available at that given time.
So I'm Mookie Spitz Bio, and I've got a new molecule that I need to get out there, and I need a commercialization plan. I need downstream marketing. And door number one is I am pitched by these larger Madison Avenue holding company agencies. Now, the people who are on that pitch, I'm going to want them to actually service the business should they win it. And now, if I hear you correctly, when you solicit the attention of Mookie Spitz Bio, I am assured that each and every individual who represents each and every specialty, just as you mentioned, a strategist, an account lead, a data science professional, that all of these individuals that I am initially interacting with are going to be the same ones who will be working on my business. Do I hear you correctly that way?
Absolutely. And maybe this is a good moment also to clarify the difference between the type of work that we do and, let's say, a Madison Avenue agency. So agencies are sort of complete end-to-end solution providers, or at least they're trying to be. They're trying to play in the strategy space, in the creativity space, in the technology space, and even in organizational change space. There's been over the last decade or more massive consolidation where agencies have bought consultancies, consultancies have bought agencies, and everyone's trying to be everything to everybody. So that's kind of the backdrop. Where we fit in that whole world is we're specifically playing in the strategic and transformation space. So we'll get involved with projects that include insight, development, and market research, strategic planning, and then we'll work on transformation projects, capability building, execution management, change management, learning and development. So our service offering is really the periphery of what the large holding companies are. Large holding companies are generally using those services to drive big tech projects or big campaign projects or big media buying projects. All we do is the strategic and transformation work. So we are competing with a very different promise. Our promise is that we'll support and enable your transformation and your planning with complete objectivity. We're not going to try and sell you a large tech integration. We're not going to try and sell you a massive Madison Avenue campaign or a huge media buy. So that's how we differentiate ourselves from the agencies, and we really do win against them when it comes to the type of work that we do.
Well, over here at Mookie Spitz Bio, I am struggling with these two options. The one option that I have is when I take a look at all the specialists that I bring in for my brand across the life cycle of my molecule, from development through commercialization, through tactical implementation of engagement. I can consider a model where I want a single throat to choke.
Mm.
And that's the value proposition I'm hearing from the Madison Avenue guys. We'll give you a project lead, an account lead, and they handle the totality of our relationship, inclusive of what it sounds like to me, at least that's what I've been promised, this digital transformative initial phase of strategy and analytics. That's my first option. My second option is to be enticed by the STEM, where I fragment my experts, I bring in the right people for the right job, and then this gets coordinated and executed in a way where I've got the best talent focused on the best option. What is the benefit of bringing in the STEM as my partner along the lines of the specificities that you describe, as opposed to the promises I'm hearing? Just like you mentioned, consultancies are now being integrated with the larger agencies. The agencies are consuming consultancies, and the consultancies are becoming agencies. What's the benefit of me bringing in your team as a component of this rather than being promised the big kahuna, ostensibly saving me the burden of managing multiple organizations?
I would submit to you humbly that that is a false choice. The clients these days are not making a choice between a large AOR or even a deep embedded relationship with a consultancy and more specialist suppliers like us. They're hiring both of them. To give you an example, we regularly get brought in to consult on market trends, best practices, to work on a capability plan or a vision for a new capability that a company is building. We get involved with RFPs and vendor selection processes to help them get the right suppliers around the table. We stay on as an extension of their team and work on change management projects, develop learning and development materials. So we're really serving as that objective advisor and strategic transformation group, but we're working alongside other companies like agencies who are creating content and developing media strategies, or large integrators who are implementing technologies. So it's not like they're saying it's either the STEM or large company X. Increasingly, and you use the word fragmentation, there's a recognition that the world is becoming incredibly complicated, and you need specialists that can manage different aspects of the transformations that are going on within the company. And those are the types of organizations that we're working with.
Sounds enticing. You're convincing me, and you're reinforcing my point of view too, that it is broken into pieces, that whether I like it or not, that mythical model of a single integrated all purpose full service AOR has been really succumbing to the complexities of the market as you describe. Tell
Yeah,
me a little bit about your precision point of expertise.
sure.
What's your differentiation in your sweet spot, number one? And number two, how are you responding to, adapting to, and evolving with some of the seismic shifts that our life science and healthcare industry is undergoing? Everything from technological pressures to market forces, transformation really of the big blockbuster drugs to these more nuanced treatments and procedures fitting of increasingly precise target audiences. Everything's changing out from under us. How are you adapting? How are you keeping pace? And how are you staying a few steps ahead?
Yeah, it starts with your first question around where we play, and we're very, very focused. So we've defined sort of our niche as the evolution of customer engagement and the digital transformations that are going on around that. So that's extremely narrow, but at the same time, there's a lot of action going on in that territory. And by having such a clear focus, it means that we can build a network of talent that fits under very specific topical themes corresponding to that larger theme, right? So we're talking about functionally finding talent that can support us in market research and insights and strategic planning and change management and learning and development. And then from a knowledge or subject matter expertise, we're looking for people who are operating in the areas where disruption is happening. And so that could be, and I'll use some jargon here because it's unique to pharma, but that could be things like the evolution of content and content development. That could be uh, machine learning uses in delivering the right message to the right customer at the right time. That could be generative AI and its role in all sorts of areas, from content development to recruitment and so on and so forth. So we're finding talent that has the functional skills and then the topical skills that we're looking for, so that when a brief comes in from a client, which can be highly specific, we're able to relatively quickly identify the right team to build around that. And that's really what our core focus is as a company, is ensuring that we have the right talent. Second thing we're doing, though, is around knowledge management. So as we accumulate more and more projects, we're getting deeper and deeper insight into how to succeed in advising our clients on these domains. So we're managing our knowledge carefully so that we can support the consultants who are coming into our network and working on projects, even as we're learning from them.
I want to be sensitive to your client work, but as kind of a generic abstraction with enough specificity to really illustrate and bring to life how you do what you do, can you cite an example that hits home solutions to some of the most common problems? And even just
Sure.
off the cuff, physicians are increasingly distracted and inundated by data.
Yeah. Hmm.
Target patient and caregiver populations are becoming more and more nuanced and smaller. So I over here at Mookie Spitz Bio, I've got a molecule and it's complicated in terms of its mechanism of action. It's going to be difficult for me to translate how I'm differentiated in this crowded marketplace within my disease state. That's problem number one. I've got specialists on the professional side who are increasingly distracted. They don't even really know much about this disease state. And I've got patients and caregivers within these small communities who are very, very hard to find and really are a micro population of the overall US population. So help me solve this problem through the lens of the STEM's unique value proposition, how you do what you do.
Sure. And a lot of this comes down to helping companies master new ways of engaging with customers. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So we have one client who is, I won't name the specific client, but they're struggling with increasing the rates of diagnosis for a serious disease, primarily affecting women. And if they're the market leader in this particular disease area, so if they can elevate the rates of diagnosis of this disease, the patients will benefit because they'll get the important treatment they need, and the company will benefit because their product will be disproportionately used in the market. So the client that we're dealing with is charged with discovering new and innovative ways of achieving this goal. They're in the digital health part of the company, and they hired us to help them understand ways of tapping into electronic medical records, and finding new ways to intersect HCPs at the moment that they might be meeting or counseling a patient, to help them understand that the patient may have this particular disease. So to do that, they needed information in two emerging markets, which they knew very little about. So we were able to build them a team that had the right expertise in health informatics, in targeted media, going after HCPs, healthcare providers, in the clinical setting, bring to them the knowledge of who plays in this space, who they could partner with, how they could engage with these HCPs. So that's an example of innovation in the health informatics and digital marketing space being brought to bear in a very specific way. Another example on the total other side of the coin would be content. So millions and millions and millions of dollars are being spent a year globally on the creation of all different types of content within pharmaceutical companies. Think about patient websites, patient brochures, leaflets, targeted ad campaigns, healthcare provider detail aids. The list goes on. Hundreds of different content types being created at the global level by headquarters, being created by individual local market affiliates, money being spent on all different steps in the process, from planning to development to production to translation to rollout. It's a major source of expense within the company. Meanwhile, technology is becoming available that will streamline and automate the production of that process. AI is playing an increasingly important role in that, but it constitutes a dramatic change in the way they do things, how they manage their agencies, how they approve content faster, how they create more granular, segmented bits of content to serve different audience types. Major change. So we play a key role in advising them on that. And we've led projects around visioning, around strategizing, capability building, technology planning, vendor selection, and even interim management of these new content transformation capabilities. So those are just two different examples, one on the engagement side, how we actually engage with customers, and another on the capability building side.
That's great, and it's enticing, and I want to dive in just a little bit deeper. Maybe thwart some bias or some notions as to how engagement works. What you describe on the healthcare professional side seems like a media play, point of care, electronic health record kind of experience. Wouldn't media companies specializing in this kind of engagement have that data? And what specific strategic role do you play? What kind of
Oh,
data
sure.
can you bring that I wouldn't get, let's say, from one of those large media companies who they're promising me all this kind of stuff with point of care physician engagement. Why would I want to hire you?
Yeah, good question. I think for this particular project, the answer came down to the particular markets that were in question. We were dealing with two emerging markets that really no large agency would have knowledge of how those markets operate. And we're also dealing with a corner of the larger media space, which is extremely dynamic and extremely fragmented, which is the health IT space. There's all sorts of companies in that space, ranging from point of care media companies to systems integrators to actual electronic medical record systems to clinics, all of whom are acting around this information space, which is the electronic medical record. So you could refer to it as media, but it's actually broader than media. It's really a partnership making strategy, figuring out the right entities to work with in these emerging markets. Now, how do you do that? Well, we needed to build a team of people who possess this knowledge, knew how to understand this fast moving market, knew how to reach out and identify the relevant suppliers, knew how to interview experts in the market, synthesize that data, make recommendations. So, what I'm saying is, it's not boilerplate, it's not cookie cutter. It's not like I'm placing a banner ad on Yahoo. I know how to do it, hire a media company. This is frontier knowledge, and frontier knowledge is the domain of consultancies, not the domain of media buying companies.
I see. So it's not like picking up the phone or sending an email or issuing an RFP for HCP media engagement within this segment or target, but you're acting as my strategic Sherpa. You're sitting with me at the table and you're helping me strategically focus on ostensibly my target audience, but do so in a way that integrates technology at the point of care, integrates data about this target population in a way that a media company can't do or won't do, and do it in a way where I not only heighten my potential engagement, but I gain a comprehensive understanding of the space And strategically, that can even impact, as you're saying, downstream content opportunities and other ways to reach the professional audience and ultimately even the patient and caregiver one. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say for the EMR opportunity we talked about, that's absolutely right. What I would add to that, and maybe this will help your listeners understand even better, is if you look at the historical roots of agency models, they're shaped like pyramids. So you have some people, senior people at the top, charged with running the agency and bringing in the clients and overseeing at the highest level those relationships. And then it starts to be shaped more like a pyramid with early level professionals, mid-career professionals, actually doing the work. And frequently the work is subject to very regimented routine processes, which allow them to do the work at scale. So it's essentially an apprentice model. You get promoted step by step, and you work your way up in that culture and in that process, and you deliver the work consistently. So our model looks completely different. It's a really a diamond shaped model. So what we're doing is we're staffing people with at least 15 years of experience on the projects. It's brains work, highly strategic work involving a lot of sophisticated skills. And those are the people who are servicing the clients day in and day out. And so therefore we're getting hired for more transformative types of projects, planning projects, frontier knowledge, very different than the types of projects that most agencies are getting. Those agencies who are getting that work, it's usually a loss leader, right? It's usually a way in to the creativity or the tech or the media buying work. The strategy departments are thinly staffed and opening the door to where the real money is made, which is in those other areas. Our entire company is the strategic insights and transformation focus.
That's a great point, and that goes back to you sitting at the table with me, you sitting at the table with the leadership of a brand, of a sleeve of business within life sciences, healthcare. I'm assuming you cover oncology, virology, endocrinology, all the specialties. But we live in an environment now where healthcare and clinical scientific knowledge is indelibly integrated with technology and with communication. So, in order for me to meaningfully engage an expert, I can't have a siloed specialist who only knows one of these three circles in the Venn diagram. I'm going to want to work with a strategic expert who understands the science, understands the clinical foundation of what I'm trying to do. I'm going to want someone who understands the technological implementation of any kind of messaging or content that I want to throw out there. And I'm going to want an expert in terms of how to bundle that content in ways that maximize engagement for this nuanced or distracted target audience. I want all three in a package. And it sounds to me like, based on how you organize the stem in this diamond shape rather than this hierarchical pyramid, that I'm getting smart people who understand the totality of my business needs rather than a specialist who's hired to simply implement on that particular level. Is that right?
I think so. I mean, there's a lot in what you just said, but yeah, in principle, these are, you might call them T-shaped leaders. So people who have kind of cross-functional knowledge acquired over years working in their particular field that make them very valuable advisors to our clients and capable of managing the projects that they work on. But this idea of one size fits all knowledge, I would push back a little bit on that and say it really just depends on the project. If it's a project related to customer engagement planning, then what you said about having scientific grounding of the molecule plus how to engage the audience plus the technology, then that level of integration of knowledge is relevant. But if it's a commercial operations project, well, then there's no expectation that you're going to understand the nuances of the scientific molecule. Rather, what they want you to know is how are leading companies building their commercial operations and how are
Got,
they,
got,
what is the best
gotcha.
practice?
Right. So within particular needs. So if it's, again, following, it might be helpful to follow the bouncing ball of the milestones along the trajectory of a molecule or a treatment's development, commercialization, and marketing launch impact. So it might be helpful to just slice and dice that. Where do you shine the most? If we can outline a life science or healthcare company's product, a molecule, a treatment, a device, where do you shine the most and best in terms of helping a company get from one milestone to the next?
Yeah. So I'll answer it this way. You can think of it in terms of the sort of launch trajectory, so pre-launch, launch, post-launch. You can also think of it in terms of which department are you talking about within the pharmaceutical company. So those are, you could even think about it in terms of, global versus local. So that maybe three different vectors that, could be used to answer your question. Let's start with the department. So our company, because we're focusing on the evolution of customer engagement and digital transformation, we don't limit ourselves to any one department. We've had projects for brand teams, marketers. We've had projects for medical affairs teams. Medical affairs teams are charged with scientific communication, medical information exchange within the pharmaceutical company, among other tasks. We've had projects in the clinical operations space. We've also had many projects in the, call it, customer engagement excellence arena, which includes commercial operations, sales operations. So these are the people who are building the plumbing, the ways of working, and the process. So you can think of it that we work on the brand side, so working on campaign planning, customer engagement strategies that face the actual customer. But on the flip side, we also work on the capability building. And I would say we're equally capable of supporting on both sides, and they each one informs the other. In terms of launch trajectory, we get involved usually 24 months before compounds are on market. We do work in landscaping. In fact, Mookie, you've even worked on one of our projects as a landscaping strategist. But then we're also working on launch planning and thinking about customer engagement strategies, ecosystems. We've worked on impact measurement projects. So all across the life cycle from about 2 years pre-launch all the way through the launch is another level. And then finally, from a global to local, we mainly engage with global organizations, but we frequently get involved in cascading our plans to local markets, not just in the US, but in major markets around the world.
So that sounds multidimensional, multi-vector. You've got the stem dipped into many of these milestones, as you mentioned, pre-launch, launch, post-launch, across different specialties for different needs of different brands and different disease states. I run into Gregg Fisher at a conference, at a thought leadership workshop, between the fifth floor and the lobby. Tell me about the STEM. And I know that's your sales pitch, but after describing so much of what you do across so many needs of your clients and potential clients, what's the heart and soul of the STEM's brand identity?
In a nutshell, we're a consultancy specializing in the evolution of customer engagement and digital transformation for the biopharmaceutical company with a unique network consulting model that allows us to bring the right talent to the right project and be your partner in navigating all the change that's happening in this space.
See, that excites me as Mookie Spitz bio, especially the talent component, because it sounds like you have a scalable model where, as opposed to just, signing on the dotted line for a ginormous AOR SOW, I've got, as you mentioned, the right talent for the right project at the right time in the right way, which will heighten my efficiencies, get the job done with the least amount of hassle and expense. And I think that might be a great segue to talk a little bit about the talent aspect of your organization. It's scalable, it's flexible, it has demonstrably high and proven expertise across all these multiple and interdisciplinary functions. Can you tell us about the STEM's unique approach to that?
Yeah, so the talent is the lifeblood of our model. So you could think of us as one half consultancy, one half talent network, and one feeds the other, and they all feed each other back and forth. So our focus, as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, is proactively identifying the leading independent talent in the major markets where we play well before we even have a project for them. And it's important here to say that our mission is a two-sided mission. So on the one hand, we want to do great work for our clients. We want to have long-term strategic partnerships, no conflicts, objectively serving our clients. But on the other hand, what really excites me and why I get up in the morning is helping budding entrepreneurs succeed, helping individual solo entrepreneurial talent make the transition from the corporate environment into being their own bosses, but having a support system, which is the STEM network, to help them get bigger, better projects than they might get on their own, help them partner with other like-minded individuals on those projects, and ultimately do better, in life and in business. That's what excites me. So we spend a lot of time networking. I probably have upwards of 5 or 10 calls a week with new talent, building our network. And we're proactively trying to understand what motivates them. What are they really good at? Are they committed to the independent lifestyle? And how we can help them. And then as we get to know them, we try them out on projects, sometimes as an advisor initially. Sometimes we throw them in the deep end as a lead if we know them from prior history. And slowly but surely, we, through experience, are building small squads of people that are high performing that we know will perform for our clients. And that's how the
Sounds like,
model functions.
yeah, that's wonderful. It sounds like you're a talent incubator, if you will. Remember, there was that big phase of the startup incubator uh,
Yeah.
tsunami, and you're a talent incubator in a sense of network, expanding a network, finding individuals who exemplify excellence in these highly specialized areas, and then as you pursue your own scalability, you reciprocate that scalability in terms of offering these professionals, in a sense, an entrepreneurial opportunity to activate and reinvent their own careers within the STEM as an extension of what they've been doing and how they approach engaging with companies and with their own expertise.
Couldn't have said it better. That's exactly what it is. It's talent incubation for people who are at a point in their career where they're ready, equipped. They may be a little bit fearful, some of them who are just starting out, but to cross over into being their own independent business owners. And we are giving them a supportive ecosystem that allows them to dip into our projects and dip out. They're free to take any project that they want. They can manage their own business at the level that they want. We have some talent that's spending large chunks of time on our projects and some that are dipping in as specialty advisors. So we don't discriminate on that. It's about getting talent involved at the level and in the right way that makes sense for them and that adds value to our client. And this is an important point, a nuance that I think is a big differentiator, is our ability to bring in advisory talent, boards of directors, if you will, and surround our leads with deep talent that you wouldn't be able to recruit as a full-time employee reporting to your office every day, but that you can integrate if you have an open source talent model like we have.
Yeah, that's excellent. In a sense, you've cracked the binary nut where door number one for most of these professionals is to stay, as we say in the business, client side. And then, as an alternative, door number two is to be agency, air quote, agency. And it's hitching your wagon to a large entrenched organization, which is either in house or, as we like to say, outhouse. And it sounds to me like you offer these very talented, very motivated, and driven, very successful individuals a nice middle ground where they're able to adaptively and flexibly adjust to that middle area of having the reliability of being working and engaged with clients and customers with the flexibility of new projects and new opportunities. They're not tied down with a single organization. And yet at the same time, they're sharing their expertise with the industry in ways that maximizes their own return, but also brings the value that they're known for to the organizations who need them.
That's right. And that's exactly right. And it's not for everybody. Not everybody. I don't know what the exact percentage is, but I would say it's got to be less than 10% of sort of working people in this health communications and marketing space have the ambition, the desire, and the capability to be a successful independent consultant. The 10% that are, we're here as an amplifying vehicle for them to get into business, to get interesting and exciting projects to the extent that they lean into the model, and operating at the level that they want to engage with us. I spend a lot of my time talking to people about what it means to succeed as an independent consultant. What are the steps you need to take to thrive? And we try to weed out the people who aren't really interested in it or who may want a freelance gig in between jobs because they've just been laid off, and really focus in on the ones who are committed to having autonomy, doing great work, and not being in a corporate environment.
Yeah, this is a lightning strike into the theme of this podcast series. Just last week, I had a Gen Z Zoomer, and she is an incredibly capable young woman, freshly entering the workforce pretty much. And she's encountered some of the common obstacles of volatility, of the commoditization of talent, and being really forced into a position where she has taken on many of the entrepreneurial characteristics that you describe would be important for senior seasoned people that would embrace the STEM. There seems to be a theme here now of adaptability, of taking on the mettle of becoming an entrepreneur, of directing and controlling your own destiny in this chaotic business environment, and ultimately benefiting from that self actualization with the tools of the technology. So, just in terms of brass tactics and implementation, you operate a virtual shop. Is that right? So most folks are scattered across the country, presumably across the world, and people are tapping in on Zoom calls, working virtually, and you've taken advantage of, especially this post-pandemic environment, of working anywhere at any time. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we are a distributed model. People are working from their home offices and occasionally from client sites. And because the nature of our work is small teams or individuals, our model works just fine. If we had projects that involve, let's say, 20 or 30 different people, it would be less practical. And there would be more of a pressure to have a traditional come to work model. But when you're working on a best practice study or a strategy, or developing learning and development materials, or a leadership oriented project with large amounts of Zoom meetings, you can actually do just fine as an independent. It also creates a work environment that is liberating for the right people. There's no one overseeing your work. In fact, we're working with business owners. And when I say overseeing the work, what I mean is like checking time or monitoring your movements. This is not that type of an organization. You're managing your own relationship with the client and your own deliverables with the client and taking accountability for the work.
So it sounds to me like if we're going to create a profile of the ideal, the STEM consultant, you're a seasoned individual, you're an expert in your field, you have a proven track record and pedigree of knocking it out of the park in your area of expertise. That's number one. You're a mover, you're a shaker, you're a performer. That's a foundational prerequisite. Next up is the enthusiasm and willingness to be project based in the sense that you're a quick learner. You could come into a situation with a fresh team, with fresh faces, with a fresh client. You onboard yourself based on that expertise. You seamlessly integrate with other experts who are brought to bear for responding to this client need. And then you love the convenience and flexibility of being able to work from home, and at the same time you have the work ethic and discipline to manage yourself. The only expectation that the team leader has, that you have as the executive sponsor will have for this client relationship, is that the work gets done and that the team is cohesive and the client feels that everyone is being responsive. Is that correct?
Most of what you said is correct. The part of it's not a complete free for all, though. I think I just want to sort of clarify that point. The people who are leading our projects are consultants that we have longstanding relationships with, who are capable of managing end-to-end projects with a high level of quality. And they're managing other people in our network to deliver. And we are supporting them throughout the process in terms of ensuring that the brief gets conveyed, that the team is assembled properly, that there's check-ins periodically with the client to ensure that our contracts are delivered with quality and to specification, that we're checking satisfaction, and that we're generally providing the support that our team leads need to thrive. So there's a scaffolding and there's a model that supports our consultants. They're not entirely on their own. Otherwise, frankly, they would just get their own projects and manage them independently. We're giving them the scaffolding that helps them succeed and thrive in a corporate relationship. But within that framework, the actual doing of the work is under their control, and that's where they're bringing their secret sauce and their talent to bear.
I think the scaffolding that you just described is a meaningful illustration of the STEM differentiator. So, just like you mentioned, on the one extreme, you have consultants who can act independently and, in a sense, be thrown into a mix. And on the other side, you have the more conventional agency model of ostensibly integrating all of this talent and driving it forward that way. And the STEM model, and again, I'm trying to zero in on your consultative difference, your brand identity, and going back to your elevator pitch, that scaffolding is that client relationship, is that Sherpa of talent. So you're bolted into, integrated with, in a sense, that brand team, that client expertise to provide this holistic function. You see what I'm trying to get at,
Yeah.
which is it's a sweet spot of flexibility with discipline, of scalability with rigor. It's an organizational structure that comes in whole, that is self-contained yet connected, and yet reliably, efficiently, and with the highest level of quality and expertise delivers on the goals that are set forward in that statement of work.
Yes. I would say if you think of it as on a graph. On the left side, you have complete independent consulting setup. You're one person, you're on your own, you're finding your own work, you're pitching the clients, you're delivering the work, you're trying to get more work, you're balancing the books, you're issuing the invoices, and when you have some time, you're getting yourself trained so you don't fall behind. On the other extreme, you have a corporate environment, which is controlling your time, your work, putting you on a career path, although we could talk about whether that's an illusion or a reality, the idea of a career path in today's world of work, but much more structured. And then you have our model, which is the right way to think of it, again, as a network model. And like most networks, they provide a scaffolding. So your network is there to assist you and support you, but you're still doing the work on your own as an independent business owner. And the scaffolding we're providing is we're helping with getting our name out there in the market. We're issuing thought leadership to attract clients. We're managing at a high level senior client relationships based on our reputation for delivering good work. We're helping to identify project briefs that are qualified. We're helping to match talent and build teams to align with that brief. We're there to help facilitate the contracting process, the SOW writing process, that statement of work generation. And then we are providing a level of oversight to ensure that our clients are getting the value from your services. And from there, we're supporting the growth of those relationships. But in the middle, where the work is actually being done, that's where the consultant can shine, doing what they have been trained to do their whole lives. And that's where, as a business owner, we exercise very little control over them, if any, because we want them to do what they do best. We want them to shine in the areas where they excel.
And in ways, this comes full circle as far as your executive sponsorship, your role as founder, as CEO, kind of coach and leader. Whereas there's a mirroring effect. It sounds like the value you provide your clients is this sense of organization, integration, scalability, and flexibility. You're the reliable partner bringing the right kind of expertise to the right job in the right way at the right time, cutting away all the waste and extras and getting to it. And then conversely, you have a similar kind of role and take a similar kind of approach to the talent that you bring in. You provide that scaffolding, that structure, the matching of the right talent with the right client for the right project. So in a sense, you're the matchmaker facing the client, bringing them the right talent, and you're the matchmaker for the talent, bringing them the right client. And
That's right.
you're at the hub of this. So in a sense, I'm back to your name, the STEM, which is really good because if you draw this out as a kind of infographic, you see almost a mandala or a radial kind of arrangement where you're the STEM facing in all of these directions. Client to talent, talent to client, and you're the interface between the two, facilitating each for everyone's benefit in a way that the pyramidal hierarchical structure of traditional agency models don't even approach.
Yeah, exactly. Our name is meant to evoke a lot of different things, but the idea of a root system, a networked root system, is definitely one of them. Another one being the brain stem and the intelligence that flows from there. There's different meanings to the word, the stem, but the fundamental concept is to run the company like a network. Another point, though, that I think is really interesting is how sort of networks grow. Some nodes of the network expand, others contract. It's an organic process. And when you talk about a center or a hub, as more talent comes into the network and builds good relationship with the client, the leads on those various accounts can grow and evolve with the client. So my role, for instance, as the founder and sort of the overseer of the system, if you will, uh, changes. I'm spending a lot of my time building out the network, cultivating new client relationships. But we have other teams that are take on a life of their own. They have their own relationships with the client, and the relationship can expand, or it can shrink based on the client need. So it's a very different way of thinking about business than the classic top-down view.
So I was Mookie Spitz bio for part of this conversation, playing that role. Now I'm going to play Mookie Spitz expert in X. And I'm at that crossroads in my career where I have been working either client side or agency side in a more traditional way. And I've matured in my career to the point where I've engendered the self confidence, built my own network to the point where I might want to change it up. How do I approach you? What kind of conversation looms between you and I to evaluate the potential efficacy of this new partnership?
Yeah, usually it starts with someone who knows someone making an introduction and very quickly progresses to a phone conversation if you're operating in the area that we operate. So we're looking for people who right off the bat have skills and are playing in domains that we operate in. But assuming you are, and the first glance view of your LinkedIn profile suggests that you might be talented, it would lead to a phone conversation, which would be about understanding better who you are, what you do, and importantly, what you want to do. And what we're listening for in that type of conversation is, on the one hand, expertise, on the other hand, commitment to being an independent consultant. And if we hear that a person has both, we're then evolving the conversation and asking people to share more information about their practice so we can really understand what they're good at. And that will involve looking at their sample work, a credentials deck, and other tangible examples of the success they've had, case studies, success stories. When we get to the point that we're confident that they would be a valuable addition to the network, we are loading them into our talent management system, and then they're in the network, and we're looking out for work that could be a match for them.
Excellent. And we will put that information in the descriptor notes of the podcast for any kind of talent out there who might feel the urge, sense the nibble to reach out to you to initiate that kind of process. And then conversely, I'm putting my Mookie Spitz biopharma life sciences hat back on. I have a brand, I have a treatment, I have a molecule, I have a device. I might even have just some kind of data need for understanding my audience better, for plugging in a technology like this crazy AI stuff that I don't quite understand and sounds like a lot of hype. How would I initiate reaching out to the STEM to help me with my needs? And what happens when I do initiate you? What process do you go through to learn about my business, better understand some of the needs that I might not even know I have?
Getting in touch is really easy. You can go to our website, www.thestem.com. You can also check us out on LinkedIn, our LinkedIn company page, or you can check my LinkedIn profile out, Gregg Fisher. So the getting in touch part is easy. From there, it is about understanding whether what you need fits in our wheelhouse. And if it does, it starts with a conversation, and a conversation that really seeks to understand the pain point, the challenge, what their needs are, what kind of deliverables they're expecting over what period of time. And we're really leaning into the listening part of what makes a consultant good, to understand the situation. And then we're developing a proposal or a statement of work, and hopefully getting in there and proving ourselves and putting our model to work. Once the lead is qualified, we'll start to activate the relevant talent so the client can start to witness firsthand what we're talking about when we talk about the right person on the right project. And then we get going and we deliver the work.
Well, sounds exciting, and thank you for making time. Thank you for helping me and our listeners better understand what a lot of folks don't appreciate as this white space that exists between what could be construed as the traditional agency model, the agency combined with consultancies, and those lone consultants who are rogue and roaming the landscape, and the benefit that you bring in terms of bringing these two together in a way that seems to optimize efficiency, provide that strategic insight, and really ultimately get the job done in a way that's as efficient and sounds to me economical at the same time.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Mookie.
I appreciate that. And I do want to do a coda to this conversation that I have you. And I think a lot of listeners would be curious to hear, just from a thought leadership and predictive point of view, there's never been this tumultuous a time in society, and specifically regarding healthcare, and the industry. Can you share some of your top line feelings about where we are and where we're headed, especially with the AI revolution, especially regarding some of the tumultuous changes in how we look at health and healthcare, the healthcare industry, and share some of the things you might have been hearing from your clients regarding expectations, some of their fears, and some of the truly Pollyanna hopes about how we could really fuse technology and talent and really the values that you provide at the STEM to just make this whole process better for all of the public health good.
Yeah. Well, I think there's so much promise and potential. But at the same time, as you've mentioned here and on previous podcasts, there's also, a lot of hype. And we witness that. What I see is it's all about particular processes that are inefficient that could be made more efficient or automated, and the slow and methodical process of bringing technology to bear to try to improve those processes for efficiency reasons internally or to provide a better customer experience. What I see is a patchwork of disparate tools and technologies playing in different corners or pockets of workflows that are inefficient. And it's still a very strong need for human beings with good pattern recognition skills, subject matter expertise, soft skills to help lead clients and plan for the integration and adoption of these new tools. So I think a lot of the change is happening at the lower level automation steps. I can give some examples in our world, but the higher order thinking, leadership, soft skills, change, visioning is still very much the domain of the human being. So if I were advising consultants out there, focus on those higher order skills, develop those higher order human skills, because those aren't going to be automated anytime soon. And even if they are automated, they become a force multiplier. They become an agent of productivity for your own work rather than something that's going to replace you. If you're working at the administrative level, involved in tasks, you should be thinking about how to insulate yourself from the automation that is coming in all corners of the world.
Absolutely. The ghost in the machine, I think, is more important now than ever before. And I think a lot of people are being overwhelmed by this AI enthusiasm. And I agree with you that the time is now ripe, not so much to give everything to the machines, but do the exact opposite, which is consolidate talent and expertise and strategic know-how in a manner where we could most expeditiously and most pragmatically take advantage of these tools. And I think your bench of experts are exactly the type of talent that needs to do that, sort through the BS integrate what works, A/B test it. And when you're living through a singularity, a time of revolutionary change, you need human expertise more than ever before, and especially on this senior level of talent to sort it out, make it happen, and stay on your feet instead of being blinded by all the noise.
Yeah, I agree. And if you almost conceptualize, AI agents as in the realm of knowledge work, they're really sparring partners, they're force multipliers, productivity enhancers. And as you say, the way to adapt is to figure out how to begin to integrate these tools into what you do. And by doing that, you will enhance your role as a human. At the end of the day, let's think about, why do clients need a human consultant? Why not just go to an AI consultant? And the words that come to my mind are, first and foremost, trust. How many times have you done a chat GPT search and it's telling you something, but you kind of detect, well, is this the full story? There might be something missing. We're inherently social creatures, so having a trusted advisor that has a broad legacy of expertise to be able to compare and contrast and plan, that's not going away. So use it where it helps you. Help it help you prepare your point of view. Help it help you streamline the secondary research gathering and synthesis process. Help it help you assemble the PowerPoint presentation. Help it help you plan your trip in a more efficient way to visit the client. But preserve and enhance those skills that can't be easily replicated around client listening, empathy, pattern recognition, strategic planning, coaching, etc. And as you say, it's a yin and a yang. It's a partnership model. It's not about replacing you entirely, especially in the knowledge work area.
Yeah, and I think the essence of strategy and effective strategic thinking is to know what questions to even ask. And if the AI is great along the lines of what you're saying, which is doing some of the legwork, pulling data for slides, aggregating and analyzing a terabyte of information, but knowing what that output means, and even more significantly, knowing what the machine could look for, is still and will remain for a very long time a uniquely human expertise, and then one that demands, especially within the highly specialized field of life sciences and healthcare, a seasoned expert with the case studies, with the experience to join a team that is scalable, that's flexible, and that's as expertly managed as the folks at the STEM. So thanks again, Gregg, for your time. Maybe we can check in 6 months, a year, to see how the industry, how the technology, and how everything is evolving with all these crazy changes.
Well, thank you, Mookie. Great to talk to you as always, and look forward to
And
staying in touch.
thanks so much. And once again, for our listeners, check the links below in the description for ways to contact Gregg. And if you have any kind of case studies or data that you'd like to share, we could put that in the description too.
Okay.
Thank you very much.